My guess is President Trump is going to step to the plate and hit it out of the park.
I want him to.
I want him to so badly. He has a real chance of making friends and influencing people and all of that.
And there's been another potential social media account from this guy with the same type of stuff listed. We, again, don't know for sure which one is which and which one is real and which isn't, but it does appear to be, from every indication, that he was a Sanders supporter. This is not Bernie Sanders' fault.
No.
By any means.
No.
However,
it's not progressives' fault.
No, it's his.
It's his fault. Mm-hmm. He did it.
Yeah.
He did it.
Well, what about the gun? You guys aren't blaming
the gun. It's not the gun's fault.
No. Although I will say,
here's the president. I would love to see somebody from the left on CNN have some sort of recognition of what they said about Tea Party people and how these things historically almost always come from lunatics or the radical left in America. The shootings that we have had have always been lunatics, Palestinian, or radical left. Those are the history of our assassination attempts in America and the unfortunate assassinations that have gone through. That doesn't mean, like with Martin Luther King, that a white racist doesn't pop in either. That happens as well. But generally, those people are all unstable.
That's right. They're all lunatics.
They're all
exactly
unstable.
Right.
They're all unstable. I mean, it's not rational to go in and shoot someone. But if you have a collective mindset, sometimes that happens. And it seems more logical because the individual is not as important as the collective. We are a republic, and the Democrats I know do not want this kind of stuff to go on. And the Republicans that I know do not want this stuff to go on. We are all Americans. We're all decent, good, many God-fearing people.
His wife has told ABC News that he had been living in Alexandria for the past 2 months. So apparently, at least potentially, a long-term sort of plan here to do this. And he had been, they're saying at least since 2014, they have social media postings of him being very critical of Republicans. Latest updates there.
That doesn't make all progressives, Bernie Sanders, and Democrats. And I know I don't have to say this to this audience. I know you know that, and people are rolling their eyes. I know you know that. But we have to say that out loud. We have to say that to our Democratic friends because they won't believe us. Because, first of all, already the crackpots are on social media from the left saying they deserved it. Yeah. Well, a guy who wouldn't vote for health care, maybe he should have been shot. All that kind of stuff is happening. Do not engage in any of that. Malcolm X was wrong. Martin Luther King was right. Malcolm X said, get 'em. Martin Luther King said, faith, hope, and love. Faith, hope, and love do not lead you to get them. It's going to feel good and it's going to be hard, but please be a part of the real America, standing up and saying, we said this about Gabby Giffords, and it turned out that it was a Democrat and a crazy man who did this to Gabby Giffords. He didn't do it for political reasons. He was crazy. But they were trying to make that into a Tea Party guy. He wasn't a Tea Party guy. He was a Democrat and crazy. We could make this about Bernie Sanders. It's not about Bernie Sanders. It's not about rhetoric. It's not about words. It's about the words this guy had in his heart, the words that this guy brought out of his mouth, the words that this guy turned into action. We all have an individual choice. If you don't want to live in a collective, then you can't blame the collective. Which I believe is a name we've used on the program as a made-up name.
It's pretty close.
Jensen.
Yeah, Hodgkinson, Jensen. But you're seeing pictures of him now from his Facebook post of him, tax the rich. He, like Stu pointed out earlier, he's called Donald Trump Hitler. A very passionate leftist progressive. And as Stu pointed out a few minutes ago, it has been confirmed that he was the guy who came up to the congressman in the parking lot and said, are these Republicans or Democrats? And when they said Republicans, he turned from them and walked right towards the stadium. They didn't see a gun. He must have had it stashed somewhere because he used a rifle. There's been a shooting in Washington today. We have Mo Brooks, the report from him, Mike Lee standing in the wings ready to tell us what he knows about the shooting. It's a tough day in America. We begin there right now. Here is what happened according to Mo Brooks today, this morning around 7 a.m., between 7 and 8 Eastern time in Washington, D.C.
We get here about 6:15, 6:30. If you're familiar with the movie, remember the Titans?
Yeah.
Well, we practice on their baseball field, 6:15, 6:30. Tomorrow night is supposed to be the game. Hopefully we'll still have it, but I don't know. It raises about $600,000 for charity, and we played in the Washington Nationals baseball stadium. Frequently the president will come, so it's a pretty good time for all, except for the fact that the Democrats have been beating us so much. But I was on deck, about to hit batting practice on the third base side of home plate, and I hear a loud bam. And I look around, and behind third base in the third base dugout, which is cinder block, I see a rifle. And I see a little bit of a body, and then I hear another blam, and I realize that there's an active shooter. At the same time, I hear Steve Scalise over near second base scream. He was shot. He's our majority whip. The gun was a semi-automatic. It continues to fire at different people. You can imagine all the people in the field scatter. I run around to the first base side of home plate, and we have a batting cage that's got plastic wrapped around it to stop foul balls, and hide behind the plastic. You know, that plastic's not real good. And I was lying on the ground with two or three others as the gunfire continues. Heard a break in the gunfire and decided to take a chance. Ran from home plate to the first base dugout, which is also cinder block and down about 2 or 3 feet so you can have better cover. There were a number of congressmen and congressional staffers who help us lying on the ground. One of them was wounded in the leg, took off my belt, and myself and another congressman, I don't remember who, applied a tourniquet to try to slow down the bleeding. In the meantime, I'm towards the right field side of the dugout, and there's gunfire within about 5 or 6, 7 feet of my head. And I look up, and there's a guy with a gun blasting away. Fortunately, it was one of the good guys, one of our security detail who was shooting back. Of course, it was pistol versus rifle, our pistols versus the shooter's rifle along the third baseline just outside the chain link fence. And he was ordering us to stay down. Another security detail person was closer to home plate. Probably, I couldn't see him, but probably on the home plate side of the dugout outside the fence line, using the dugout as cover as he's firing back. And there must have been 50 to 100 shots fired. Hard to itemize them. Eventually, it seems that the shooter shot both of our security detail people. There were some congressmen on phones screaming for reinforcements. Seemed like a long time when we weren't even hearing sirens from local police officers, which tells me they probably did not yet know what was going on. Eventually, the shooter starts circling around third base. This is my understanding. Of course, I'm down on the ground helping the guy who's a bullet hole in his leg. And the shooter starts coming around home plate towards we are outside the fence line. And my understanding is that's where our security detail, maybe some of the ones who were wounded, still defending us, took him down. At which point, once we got the all clear that the shooter was down, we ran out to second base for Steve Scalise. He had crawled into the outfield, leaving a trail of blood. And we started giving him some liquids. I put pressure on his wound in his hip. And Brad Winstrip, congressman from Ohio, Cincinnati, fortunately, he's a physician. He started doing what you need to do to try to minimize the blood loss. Shortly thereafter, more of the police showed up. Again, it seemed like forever, but it probably was shorter than what it seemed.
That's Mo Brooks, congressman, telling us exactly what happened in Washington, D.C. Earlier this morning.
On CNN, he had him on it for a long time, giving the details.
If they would not have had the Capitol Police there, many of the Republican congressmen say that they would all be dead by now. It was clearly some sort of an ambush. Some of the congressmen were asked in the parking lot by a strange man if these were the Republicans or the Democrats that were practicing. They said Republicans. They now have identified him as the shooter. We understand that the shooter at this point is still alive, but we have no motive, and it is not wise to speculate at this point on what his motives were. We go now to Washington, D.C., and Senator Mike Lee. Many of his colleagues, Jeff Flake was a part of this. Rand Paul was out on the baseball field as well. Mike. So David Frum didn't take long, as the first to come out. Virginia, no background checks, no licensing, no registration, no permit required for concealed carry of long guns. May I ask, how do you conceal carry a long gun? I mean,
You have really long pockets.
you have really long pockets.
Really long ones.
Yeah, I've got a concealed carry holster for my rifle. I carry it on the inside of my pants.
Yeah, it's Neo from The Matrix
exactly
is
right.
essentially the only person. I mean, and I guess you have.
There is no permit required for the concealing of long guns in Texas either, because no one carries a rifle.
I guess maybe Columbine because they were the trench coat mafia. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah, open carry long guns and handguns.
I don't remember.
I really thought this time, okay, at least there won't be that immediate drumbeat of we got to take the guns, and certainly there already has.
Well,
been,
no, from
a Republican
GOP guy.
Yeah, from a Republican.
Yeah, so
Unreal.
Congratulations on that.
You know, on the other hand, if one of those congressmen or senators had been carrying a gun, it could have been over even more quickly. They only had 2 people armed, and that was the Capitol Police who came with the House whip. If more of those guys had been armed, that guy would have been down a lot sooner.
All you need to do is be a responsible gun owner, and you can stop stuff like this. Mm-hmm. If Scalise didn't have Capitol Police protection, they all would have been dead.
That's certainly what Rand Paul believes.
Right. The first responder is you. Do you know who gave us the name of first responders? We think that this is an old thing. Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is the one who started the first responder nonsense.
Nonsense meaning because
they are not the first responders. You are.
Yeah.
You are.
To be fair.
We are sitting, we cower until the first responders come. That's up until Jimmy Carter. That was a new idea. You don't wait for the police to come. You first get away from it if you can. You barricade yourself if you can, if they're coming after you. But if they're coming after other people, we have a responsibility to protect our fellow man. And we can. You just have to be a responsible gun owner and not live in one of these states where they require you to be defenseless and hide and cower, where somebody with a gun is eventually going to come and find you because they have a gun and you don't. Again, Rand Paul said, if it wasn't for the Capitol Police were there, they'd all be dead.
Program Mercury.
I'm just going through Twitter feed, I don't know why. The left is stabbing police horses in the neck and literally shooting our elected reps. If you don't realize it's a civil war, you're naive. Claire McCaskill, please, people, no partisan politics. Let's come together against evil, united by our common decency. Amen.
I wonder where she was at the last 8 shootings.
Not helpful. Not helpful.
I mean, your mind can race.
Aren't you
there,
curious,
obviously.
though? I mean, I'm just wondering.
Yes.
But I think I think that's the appropriate
That's
response.
the appropriate response every time.
Yep, every time.
If that would be your response every time, good for you.
My guess is